This is episode 51 with Michael Jackson.
You got to find something that you're passionate about, and that's what you should do. Because if you find something that you're passionate about, it won't seem like work.
This is the Sports Business Classroom audio experience. If you recognize the voice, let me put a name with it. I'm Bo Estes, a host on NBA TV and an announcer on NBA.com. I'm one of the instructors at SBC. Welcome to the show. Now, breaking into the world of sports can seem daunting, but if you're looking for a leg up, you've come to the right place. Each week, we talk to top-notch figures all across the industry to bring you lessons and advice to learn from. Thanks for spending some time with us today, and let the experience begin. Landing a job in the NBA is no easy feat, no matter if it's as a player, front office exec, agent, or even in the league offices. But one surefire way to put yourself ahead of a competitive talent pool is an extensive knowledge of the collective bargaining agreement. And Larry Kuhn is undoubtedly, and I can't stress this enough, undoubtedly the leading expert on planet Earth on the subject, and he's been teaching the material to teams, agents, media, and students now for over 20 years. And for the first time ever, he has an online course containing all of his material available for purchase to the general public. CBA Mastery with Larry Kuhn is available on demand with no expiration, so you'll have access to this material whenever you need it. To learn more and enroll, please visit sportsbusinessclassroom.com today. Thanks for hopping on to the SBC audio experience, folks. I think you are in for a real treat this week. My guest is Michael Jackson, and as accomplished as he is, Michael is also by nature remarkably humble and understated about what he has achieved. However, it's my view that you'd have a hard time overstating his impact on the business and presentation of the sport of basketball over the last 35 years. It's my hope that listeners will take away from this discussion a new appreciation for what Michael has done in the game and business of basketball. At least that's what I'm attempting to shed light on. But I also want people to understand exactly what made him successful. Yes, the drive and determination, but also the focus, the planning, and the approach, so that others can learn from his journey and experience. Michael was legitimately the very first name that I thought of as a guest when I took over hosting duties on this show. To give you an idea why, here's just a short list of the accomplishments that we'll touch on over the next hour. Michael is a college basketball national champion with the Georgetown Hoyas. He was an NBA player with the Sacramento Kings. Michael was accepted into the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. He was a Rhodes Scholar candidate. I'm going to say that one again. He was a Rhodes Scholar candidate. He's largely responsible for the lineup and presentation you still see today on Inside the NBA on TNT. That's right. He helped put together that roster of Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson. And Michael wound up his career as the global head of basketball for Nike. Now, I want to tell you before you start listening, you're going to hear a little bit of audio popping. It's small, but it's technical. And I don't think it's going to take away from your experience and learning from Michael. So I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy the next hour with my old boss, first time I've ever had an old boss on the show, and my friend, Michael Jackson. All right. Thanks so much, Michael Jackson. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. Perhaps more than you have. I know how much you love doing this sort of thing. The first thing I want to ask you, and this isn't really related to your playing career or your career in corporate America. I just want to know, recently, your old teammate and now the coach of Georgetown, Patrick Ewing, took your old school on a run through the Big East and they won the tournament. How much did you enjoy watching that? And what did that feel like for you? To me, it was almost nostalgic, and I didn't play there.
Yeah, no, I felt great. I was happy for Patrick. What I was most happy about is that the world, specifically the U.S., could see his personality, his true personality come through. Because a lot of times with Patrick, he's guarded. But people who know him, who are close to him, that's why you hear Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley and such say he's just the nicest person in the world, which he is. He does act a little different when he's coaching. He does he does get on the kids a little bit, but he's an excellent coach, which is something that the school needs. But what is even better is that he's just a down to earth, really really good person. So I was happy for him. I'm happy for the school, obviously, but I was more so happy for him and just his credibility of being a very good coach, whether it's X's and O's, whether it's understanding the player's personality, who play well together, time and score. It showcased itself, which was kind of nice. Now they just need to get maybe a couple of more blue chip players, and hopefully they can keep them for a while and let the school do well.
I don't know. You would know his similarities and differences between Patrick and Coach Thompson, but one thing I do know, and I feel like he had to overcome, particularly even in his NBA coaching career, is he's a big man. And Coach Thompson talked about the struggle of a big man getting respect as a coach. People more like you, honestly, a point guard, get those opportunities. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah, I think what you see and what you hear is that the point guard, you hear a lot of people talk about the point guard running a team and things of that nature. But if you think about it, how the game has evolved, you look at LeBron, you look at Kobe, you look at a lot of people that aren't necessarily the point guard that are able to run a team. You look at a Larry Bird, for instance, who wasn't a point guard. So you do hear about that. And usually when you have somebody that's really, really big, the perception is that they're not real intelligent. It's just the perception. Doesn't mean that it's correct at all. No. And in this case, it's quite the opposite. So Coach had to fight through that, because perception was reality back in the, back when he started. And it hasn't changed much, as we can see in society and all the things that are going on with some of the social demonstrations and things of that nature, that things haven't really, really changed a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's strange that one of Coach Thompson's best pupils is fighting the same battle at the same place that he fought, starting back in the early 1970s, and continuing with that struggle. We're in the middle of March Madness as we're talking right now, Michael, and you helped lead Georgetown to a national championship back in 1984. I'm wondering what your memories are of that run and that experience and that time in your life.
Wow. I haven't answered that question. I don't think I've ever answered that question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. My memories of that is similar to what I'm dealing with right now, this instant. My allergies are killing me. When we were in LA, we went to our second game, which I think was against UNLV. We played at UCLA Stadium, and I just remember my allergies were incredibly. They were incredibly high, and I couldn't hear. I had a stoppage in one of my ears, and which was a good thing because I couldn't hear Coach yelling at me, Coach Thompson, that is. So
you can block it out a little bit.
Yeah, I can block. Yeah, he was yelling. I just look and just have this blank stare, or blank look at him, and which made him continue to yell, unfortunately. But I understood where it's coming from, though. Please understand. I understood where it's coming from. But that's the memory that comes back the most. And you can probably hear it in my voice a little bit with the allergies that are going on where I am back on the East Coast. But that, and then also just the feeling of when we got in the game, when the game started, the first jump ball, we felt extremely, extremely confident that we were going to win, no matter where we are, no matter who we play. We were just, as a team, as a unit, very, very confident, and not cocky. We respected our opponent, and we knew that if we didn't play well, that we could be beat. But we felt very, very confident, and everybody understood, knew their role and what they were bringing to the table, which was a great feeling, because I've been on a few teams where that wasn't the case. And it was. I just remember it being very, very fun because we were all connected.
It's interesting. I wonder. You guys, I watched that team. You guys were obviously extraordinarily talented. You brought a lot of talent, and you brought a lot of the defensive pressure was really something. I wonder if you guys felt any pressure at that young of an age because your coach had been close to a national championship before. Did you feel any pressure to deliver to him a national title, or did he remove all that from you?
No, it never came up. And I don't even recall any reporters asking that question. So no, it never came up. He never brought it up. We were just playing for that particular season, that particular year, that particular game. So it never. I didn't feel any pressure whatsoever about. They had been to the Final Four. They lost by 1 point to North Carolina. Um, no, it never ever came up.
That's quite it's quite a job of blocking stuff out, really.
Yeah.
Honestly, particularly think about for a guy like Patrick, who had been right there, one
Hmm.
point away.
Well,
And coach,
a lot of the players that were on the team played on. I mean, you think of Freddie Brown, you think of Gene Smith, um, you think of Billy Martin. Um, those guys were on the team. Ralph Dahl, they were on the team. So,
it had to feel
uh,
good for Freddie Brown. Honestly, it must have been wonderful for him.
yeah, I can't speak for Freddie. I don't. I would assume that it was wonderful for everyone, but
Yeah,
you know,
it was okay. The feeling was okay.
feeling was good. It was good. It was yeah, yeah. It was really, really. It was a good feeling.
Well, obviously, I if people haven't read it yet, Coach Thompson has an autobiography written with Jesse Washington out called "I Came as a Shadow," and personally, I really, really recommend this book, not just for the basketball stories, but for his personal journey, how he learned, what he learned, and how he delivered what he learned to the people in his life and the people that he coached. I'm wondering if you can, even 6 months roughly after his passing last August, can put into words what sort of impact he had on your life. What
Cool.
how he impacted you, Michael.
Well, that question it depends on how much time you have for an answer. Um, a
Take
lot
your
of the
time.
things, a lot of the things that I do today are learnings that I have and have had from him. Which was crazy, and what a lot of people don't realize is that you know I've played for many different coaches, and he is the only one that I stayed in contact with. I was unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I was there with him when he passed, and it was
Oh
one of
wow.
the hardest, if not the hardest, things that I dealt with in my life or had to deal with. But uh, he's just some of the things that I've learned and are things that he articulated during practice. Things that he articulated when we were on the phone because we talked quite
Like
a bit,
what?
especially. Excuse me.
Like what?
Um, well, I was going to get into that. Like for example, when he came to my house to recruit me, I literally just had Kentucky come the weekend prior, and Joe B. Hall flew up on a private jet um, and met me in my house with my mother, along with Leonard Hamilton, who was considered at the time the number one recruiting assistant in the country. And they came up in a private jet, had the uh, pulled out a video, had a projector that projected on the wall, and it was crazy. And I guess word got back. I don't know how, but word got back to Coach, and he came out to see me the very next weekend, and he came out, and I was feeling good about myself at the time. You're a 16-year-old kid. You got Kentucky, which has a long, long history of great basketball, and a couple other schools that I had talked to. And Coach comes in, and Georgetown just finished, uh, winning the Big East and also playing extremely well at the time. Um, I had a couple of questions for him, and I'm feeling my oats a little bit, and I said, Coach, what guarantees do I have that you're going to be at Georgetown my 4 years that I'm there? And he looked at me across the table, and my mother sitting at the table as well, and he says, you don't have any guarantees that I'll be here. The only guarantee I will give you is that you will graduate. I'm like, oh no, okay. He said, son, I put myself in a position. I worked very hard to put myself in a position to where now other schools and other entities are looking at me. It would be detrimental to me personally and my family if I don't look at those opportunities to make sure that I investigate them and I make the right decision given all the information I have on what's best for me and my family. Now, what's best for me and my family may be just to stay at Georgetown, but I can't guarantee you that that will always be the case. So the part that I learned from that is just pure honesty, and also putting yourself in a position where you work hard enough that you have opportunities to come your way. So just the very first sit down meeting, I learned something from him. And I've always been what some would call someone that I'm an introvert by nature, but somebody who listens, and I learn by observation as well. So I observe and listen, and I was always listening and I was always watching. So if you do that, you learn a lot, and I learned a lot from him in that manner.
It's funny that you recall that all these years later. And one of the things in reading the book is that I noticed things about you that you may not even remember, decisions you made or moments when we worked together at Turner, that I felt like that's born out of Coach Thompson. There was a kid. We had this old highlight room at Turner Sports back in the day at TNT, and so I worked in there as an editor when Michael was helping to run Turner Sports, and we had a guy that also worked at Fox Sports at the time, and this guy walked in with a Fox Sports shirt on to Turner Sports, and so I'm reading this story in the book about a kid at Georgetown wearing Converse at a Nike school, and I'm going, that reminds me of Michael at Turner Sports. I feel like you were paying attention, and there are those life lessons that you're absorbing the whole time, right?
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
It affected your management too.
Yeah, no, I took all my learnings and applied them to my everyday life, whether it's what I'm doing at home, whether it's corporate America. One of the other things that I took away from him is, what he would sit chairs down on the side of the basketball court. And a lot of times he would lecture us, and I don't say that in a negative term at all. And in fact, it was one of the things that many of my teammates and I look forward to, where you would learn so much about life, so much about what's going on in the world. And we were required to know and understand what was happening in current events. Like he would blow the whistle, you would warm up, he'd blow the whistle, and you'd go stand in front of the chair, and then he would give you the signal that you can sit down. Sometimes you would stand there for 15 minutes before he would give you that signal. Sometimes it'll be 15 seconds. But then you would sit down, and he would start to articulate different things and different scenarios and different learnings. And he would ask you about what's going on. And at the time, there was a lot going on in the Middle East. And he may ask you what's going on in Iran at that time. And you better know something, because if you didn't, he never punished one individual. Anytime somebody did something that either they were late for a training appointment, or they were late getting to class, or whatever, what have you, the entire team was punished, not one individual. So that also instilled teamwork amongst us. If you're in your dorm room and you see your roommate, your teammate, and you're like, he has class at 2:15, and it's 2, you're like, yo, you got to get up, you got to go to class. Because not only are you looking out for him, but you're also looking out for yourself and the rest of your teammates. Because that means if he doesn't get to class on time, because the professors all knew Coach Thompson wanted all of his players on time, they would literally call Coach and let him know that an individual wasn't on time, and then that means we would have practice at 5 in the morning. Nobody wanted to have practice at 5 in the morning, or have a 2-a-day practice, 5 in the morning, then you come back we would practice at 4:30. So you paid attention to things that he was sharing with you, but everything was geared around teamwork and being a good teammate. And you can take that into corporate America. So that's probably some of the things that you saw, that you were reading in the book, that I took from the learnings that I had, and not only just going to school there, but being close to him and his kids as well.
Yeah, I'm. That's really interesting because I feel like some of the stuff he did, I felt coming through that room at Turner Sports. There was a time you and I rode to the arena in San Antonio together. I gave you a ride over there. I had a rental car or whatever. We were going to a game. And let's be honest, I was very young and I was naive at the time. I didn't understand how the whole business thing worked. And I was telling you about my travels and like how much I was working. And hey, Michael, I gotta be honest with you, things are pretty good right now. The money coming in is pretty good. I can't believe all this. And you're my boss. And I remember you saying, why would you say that? Like almost like your Coach Thompson thing. Why would you say that? And we pay you that for a reason because we think you're worth it. Don't ever say that to your boss. So it was almost like his lessons with, you need to understand your value. You need to value yourself. And so you're saying that as my boss at the time. And some of that stuff, it was so weird reading back through that book and reflecting like his lessons that he's passing down, you're passing down, and perhaps somebody else passes down, which I suppose is a wonderful legacy.
Oh yeah, it's incredible, and I can see some of the things that Patrick has learned, and has taken from his dealings with Coach. Now, granted, Patrick, he played for Pat Riley, he played for all the Van Gundys, however many there are, and I love the Van Gundys. I don't know them personally, but I love what they represent and who they are. But Rick Pitino, etc. So he's taken a little bit from everyone, but I do see Coach having more of an influence on how he carries himself and how he's coaching. But yeah, you try to emulate and take away from people who you admire, but also people who are doing it the right way. And Coach, I thought, better than anyone, did it the right way.
So you have this solid career at Georgetown. You get drafted by the New York Knicks. You end up a year later starting an NBA career with the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, you can say it. I was cut by the Knicks.
No, I'm fine with all that. But what I'm wondering, I'm more wondering, like you get accepted at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard. I'm wondering what Michael at that age, his plans for life are, because it seems, looking at it from afar, that you were very directed, that you were very focused on a life plan, and it's almost beyond what I would expect of a normal player that age who's looking at a professional basketball career. Is that something that I'm looking back on it, or is that fair to say?
It maybe looking back on it, it appears that way, but I will tell you, it wasn't that way, to be honest with you. When I went to Georgetown, I didn't know what I wanted to major in, because I didn't know. One of the things that I tell people even today, no matter what their age is you got to find something that you're passionate about, and that's what you should do. Because if you find something that you're passionate about, it won't seem like work. It won't seem like you're. And that's what I was trying to figure out when I was 18, 19, 20 years old at Georgetown. So I went undeclared, and I remember there was like maybe an hour my sophomore year before I had to make it, declare a major. And I went to see my dean at the time, and I said, "Look, I don't know what to major in." And I remember the dean asking me, "What am I passionate about?" And I said, "Well, I'm passionate about basketball, and I've taken a couple of courses here and there. And at Georgetown, you don't have any of those easy classes that I've heard they have at state universities and other universities. All your classes are are legitimate, to say the least.
Yeah.
So what are you passionate about?" It's like, I don't know. I've done halfway decent in school, and I did okay in school. And he said, "Well, you're in Washington D.C." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, there's the government here. So why don't you major in government and just, see if that's something that you're interested in, something that you're passionate in, and then take it from there." Well, I did major in government, public administration, and political science, and I ended up minoring in sociology. And I just did that because I had a couple of electives in sociology. Um, but the summer of my sophomore year, I worked at my congressman's office. Um, they called, we just won the national championship. They called, wanted to see if I was interested. They called the basketball office, wanted to see if I was interested in that. You know, sure, yeah, that would be great. I just declared, and which I think is a pretty funny story myself. I don't know if anyone else thinks it's pretty funny. After working the entire summer, and it was fun, it was nice. I
Yeah.
got to see some things that I've never experienced before. I knew I was not interested in having a career in government after that, but I had already declared. So I ended up, getting a degree in public administration. I ended up doing well enough to where I got into Harvard's Kennedy Institute. I was also, um, a Rhodes Scholar, which was kind of nice. But I wanted to play ball. I wanted to play ball. I wanted to continue to play ball. So I got drafted by the Knicks, and I thought that was a great situation. Patrick was there, um, and it just didn't work out.
Were you
Um,
close? Did you feel like? Were you
oh
close to
yeah,
making?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I felt very yes, very very close. But it didn't work out, and I get a call from Coach Thompson, and he says, "Son, why don't you come back?" And he called people son a lot. And he said, "Son, why don't you come back and help me out a little bit? I need some help with some of the things that we have going on here." He didn't need any help. He was just trying to look out for me. At the time, I'm thinking he needed some help, but in retrospect, they didn't need any help. So um, I'm back. I'm helping out. I'm even sitting on the bench at the end of the bench, and he would even throw it to me at halftime to just give my perspective, give my overview of what we
Wow.
may need some adjustments, and which was nice. It was a good feeling. And I was, going to go to business school at Georgetown. I'd already entered into a couple of classes. So um, fast forward to him asking me, "Hey, Michael, I have this tape of this young man that came in. Why don't you take a look at it? And this will be 100% up to you whether or not we look at this kid." And so I look at the tape, review the tape, and it so happens to be of an African in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so we look at this tape, it's a grainy VHS tape, and this gentleman is standing and his head is close to the net. And I'm thinking, is that really a 10-foot basket, or is it a 9-foot basket, or is it an 8-foot basket? And the kid is 6'1", 6'2". But I watched the tape, and you see them playing, and he is taller than most of the other kids that are playing against, and a little raw, but it looked like he had a decent skill set and very athletic, could really run. So um, after looking at the tape for a while, and I had multiple tapes to look at, I go back to coach and I said, "Yes, this is somebody you should definitely invest in." And he said, "Michael, you need to understand." And now the rules in 1987, 88 were a little bit
Yeah.
different than they are now. So the rules were, if somebody came from overseas, whether it was Australia, whether it was Europe, whether it was Africa, and a collegiate administrator met them at the airport for a particular sport, that individual was granted a scholarship right there.
Oh, okay.
So what ended up happening was myself and a young lady friend of mine met him at the airport. And this person comes off the airport, and the two assistant coaches are, is at Dulles Airport in Northern Virginia, and two assistants are hiding behind a tree and
They're off in the shadows.
pillar, just in case. And we took two separate cars, just in case Dikembe Mutombo comes off he comes down the runway and he's not 7 feet tall, or he's not 6'8" or 6. He happens to be 7'2". They come pop out, take his hand, and the rest is history. But what's interesting is Dikembe spoke very little English, and my friend and I, she was from Togo, Africa. She spoke obviously a dialect in Swahili, and they could communicate slightly. So he sees this beautiful young lady. He's riding in the car, and he's thinking, "This America is great. America's incredible." So yeah, that's
pretty story too. There's an aspect. It's actually pretty funny, but there's an aspect of it. He really trusted you. Coach really trusted. I mean, it's on you, man. You better get it right.
Yep. I feel pretty good about that decision. Dikembe turned out to be, it turned out okay.
Yeah, we're not on the fence about that one, man. So then, tell me about you decide I want to play pro ball still. I've still got to play pro ball.
Yeah, I definitely want to continue to play. So one of the things that after getting into Harvard's Kennedy Institute, Coach said, "Why don't you?" I would work out every day. Obviously, that was one of the beauties of going to school there. That the gym was open to you no matter. And I was a gym rat. I stayed in the gym whether or not I was working out on my physique, my body, different parts of my body to become a better basketball player, or just doing different drills and things of that nature. So he said, after you work out, once you come up in the office and let's chat about your, what's next for you, what you want to do. And I go up there and say, "Coach, I think I'm leaning towards going to Harvard, Kennedy Institute." And he said, "Really? That's surprising." It's like, as much as you're in the gym, as much as you're working out. I said, "Yeah." He's like, "So son, you can go to school anytime.
Yeah.
You can be my age and go back to school. You only have you have a limited amount of time when you can actually play this game. Give it another try, continue to work out, and let's see where that takes you." Now, I could have gone overseas after I was cut by the Knicks, but I decided that I didn't want to do that. So I continued to work out. And I went to Sacramento and played there with Bill Russell, and had still to today have a great relationship with him. And it was a blast. It was an absolute blast. And if you look at the rosters, once I stopped playing and started working at Turner after the United States Olympic Committee, you can see a lot of the people that were on our air were people that were teammates of mine when we were in Sacramento. Whether it was Danny Age, whether it was Reggie Theus, whether it was Kenny Smith. I met Cheryl Miller while I was there. I mean, it's ironic, and it goes back to being observant. It goes back to some of the things that Coach instilled in all of us when we were playing. Now, how many of us paid attention and took it to apply it to life after leaving Georgetown is another thing. But I remember sitting next to my locker was next to Kenny Smith with the Kings, and I remember him being asked questions after the game, and he was high flying rookie, and he had a really great rookie season, and he was answering questions. And after he finished, and we were considered freaking frat. We were best friends at the time. And he said, I said, "Kenny, man, you should be on television. You should be on a radio show. You get the gift of gab." Now, granted, Kenny loved rap music, so a lot of times when these guys were asking the questions, he would just break it down as if he was doing a little bit of a rap. But
This was his opportunity for a solo.
exactly. So, but I remember hearing Danny Ainge and hearing him talk a lot. And he and I had very similar personalities, and he's the one who I would always play backgammon with on the plane when we were flying, wherever we were going to the different games. But yeah, it was him. Also Doc Rivers, who I met through playing. I've taken something from everywhere I've been and tried to apply it to the next opportunity that I have. And again, that was something that I learned um, my 4 years at Georgetown and beyond.
It's really something going from a coach like John Thompson to a guy like Bill Russell. I mean, that's a pretty good 1-2 punch, Michael.
Yeah, it was great. But also somebody who actually, it's again ironic, somebody who cut me, which was Hubie Brown. I became very, very, very close with Hubie when I was at Turner, and Hubie was one of our analysts, and I loved Hubie. He was great, and he was a great coach as well, and and enjoyed especially during the draft, as I'm sure you've heard from a mutual friend of ours from school. Some of Hubie's comments about his analyzing players is just, it's classic. It's awesome. It's incredible. So
everybody's got a Hubie impression too.
Yeah, I don't have one of those. I respect the man too much to even attempt to.
Way to back off the ledge quickly, Michael.
Exactly.
Before going on, I want to back up to something real quick, because to me, you breezed right past it, but man, it seems like a big deal. Getting accepted into the Kennedy School at Harvard and a Rhodes Scholar. Did it dawn on you, man, this is something? This is really impressive, or not at all? You're just cruising along in life. Hey, I played a guard at Georgetown. I won a title. It doesn't hit you at the time?
No. I mean, no, it was pretty. Looking back on it, it's nice. It's great accomplishment. I appreciate it, but I never talk about it. The only way people know is if they read my bio. So no, it's just.
Is it meaningful now?
School was not, for whatever reason, school was not difficult for me. I don't know why. I just, I never missed a class. I was always early for class. And that's not something that, Coach, they have at Georgetown, you have certain rules and things of that nature. You generally were 10 to 15 minutes earlier, like if you have an appointment or if you have, like, the bus is leaving, or you got there 10 to 15 minutes early, and if you didn't, you were considered late. But I was always that way, and that was instilled to me from my mother, the way I was raised. That somebody else's time is very valuable. And so if you're late, you're telling that individual, or you're giving them the impression that you don't value their time. And I was brought up to be very respectful of others and other people's time.
So you played 3 years.
I don't know if I answered your question or not. Probably not.
No, you did. I'm just, look, if I was a Rhodes Scholar, I would skywrite it above my house. I would be so proud of that thing, man. I know how humble you are, and I know that's how you are, but it's really an accomplishment, man. It's something that very few people have ever accomplished. So, it's something to be proud of, I think. And it speaks to, I think there's something about you that's able to focus and achieve stuff that maybe you don't like to talk about, but it's really impressive. Tell me about you played 3 years in Sacramento. Why not 4, 5, and 6? And what were you thinking about as your basketball career ended?
Oh, so you're getting back to the portion in the book. Well, so I come back after my 3rd year. Danny Ainge was there, Kenny Smith, and I played pretty well, especially in practice, or if we do one-on-one, I played extremely well.
Yeah.
I just wanted the opportunity. I needed opportunity, and I felt good about my game. I felt good about being able to play against people in the league. I was very, very not outwardly confident, but very confident that I could play and I could play in the league and contribute for quite a while. So I come back, literally fly back the day the season's over, because in Sacramento, unfortunately, we weren't even close to being in the playoffs. So I can get my flight and know, like, the season's over April 23rd. I was flying back home the 24th. And I was in the gym at Georgetown working out starting the 24th. And every
Yep.
summer I had a job and I worked out. So I'm in the gym. It's literally April 24th or the 25th, either the next day. And the coach says, hey, why don't you come see me? You know, let me know how the season went, things of that nature, in the office after you finish working out and you shower. So I go in and I say, hey, coach, what's up? He's like, hey, just tell me about the season. So we're going through the season and some of the things. And he said, so what are your plans? So, well, I'm going back. I don't know if I'm going back to Sacramento. I don't know but I'm going to continue to play. I know I can play. And he says, son, stop chasing the blank dream, son. You have a good head on your shoulders. At some point in your career, you will be making more money than all of these individuals playing in the NBA. Excuse me. So I said, well, that's fine, but I don't know. I just enjoy playing. I'm passionate about it. I enjoy playing. He said, son, trust me. Trust me. Just put some feelers out, continue to work out. And at the end, you know, September comes around. If you want to continue to play, you go play. If not, you take the opportunity and go work in corporate America. Sorry. And
Oh, no worries.
so what ended up happening is I had the feelers out. One was with AT&T, had an opportunity there, had an opportunity at the United States Olympic Committee, had another opportunity. I can't remember what part of corporate America it was, but there. And I had 3 teams that were interested in me. One was Cleveland, Sacramento wanted me back, but they weren't going to give me a full guarantee. They were going to give me partial.
Okay.
And I had some opportunities in Europe to play. And they were substantial as far
Yeah.
as the you know, the money that you could I was being offered to go play there. And I was nervous about going overseas for some reason, which was, looking back on it, that's my biggest regret, to be honest with you. I wish I would have gone overseas for a year or two, but anyway, I ended up taking the job at the United States Olympic Committee, which was the least paying job of everything that I was looking at. And the only
Why
reason
did you
why
do that?
I took it was because after looking at it and doing the research on it, I felt like I could go there and make a difference. There was very few people, if any, that looked like me that was working at the United States Olympic Committee.
Got it.
So I thought I could go there and give them a different perspective, a different vantage point. Um, and so that's what I ended up choosing to do instead of continuing my basketball career as far as playing is concerned.
See, again, I feel like you're very deliberate in your choices. I was talking to Dennis Scott recently, and he talked about the end of his playing career. And like right after it's over, what am I going to do with my life? And he said that was a period of a couple of years for him.
Mm.
Like, what am I doing? Where am I going? What are my next choices going to be like? And it seemed like, again, you have it, at least you plotted out some options for yourself, and you take a very you make a very deliberate choice. Did you have a clear plan at this point, or are you just sort of following a path as it's put in front of you?
One thing that I've always done, even when I was little, I always I'm a planner.
Okay.
So, I wanted to make sure that I had some options, whether or not I was going to try corporate America. And remember, one of the things that you had to do if you went to Georgetown, you had to have a legitimate job every summer. Even if you were going to summer school, no matter what you were doing, you had to have a legitimate job and you had to work on specific parts of your game. So a legitimate job means you had to go, either you worked on the hill, You worked in the law office. I always worked for Alexander and Associates. Clifford Alexander, Janet Hill, Grant Hill's mother, Calvin Hill's
Yep.
um,
Wife.
father of Grant Hill. And
Yep.
I loved the job there. And I did that my junior and senior year. And even as I played in the NBA, when I came back, I worked for them. And did what they did was consulting work, legitimate, serious consulting work, and wrote affirmative action plans for Major League Baseball, wrote it for the USTA, United States Tennis Association, and even I was involved in naming a pizza while I was there by a company based in Chicago. Did some really serious work with them and had a great learning. But all the while, was still working out every day. You know, would work in. The office was not far from Capitol Hill actually, and then get off work and go to the gym and literally not get home until 10 o'clock at night. Go to the gym, work out. We played at school. Everybody came back to the Georgetown, Washington D.C. area, and we would all play with the current players that are at Georgetown at that time. And it was a great learning, but I made sure that I was still involved in some sort of legitimate work or corporate America. So it wasn't just jumping into something. This is the first time I've experienced corporate America. So I had a plan of, okay, have these opportunities in front of me, and I have these other opportunities from a basketball perspective in front of me. So what am I going to choose? And, I had coach leaning on me a certain way and saying, hey, you need to start this. You got your pension. So that was the key, making sure that I had pension for.
You were conscious about that too, weren't you?
Oh,
You were
100% conscious. 100%
Why is that?
conscious. I wanted to. I took what coach when I said earlier, if you recall, I put myself in a position where I worked hard, so that I could be taken care of later on in life. So I wanted to make sure that I busted my butt playing this game that I love. Make sure that I was going to reap some rewards from that later on in life.
How
So
many
I
young
just
guys,
wanted to set myself.
Michael, though? How many young guys, is that something that was really talked about in the locker room? I've got 8 games till I get my pension. No, how many people are thinking about that?
No, it wasn't talked about in that manner. But what was inferred is making sure that you look at the future, making sure you plan for the future. And the way that was discussed was it manifested its way in many different areas. Whether or not it was coach taking during Black History Month, everybody talks about MLK and things of that nature. But during MLK's birthday, he would literally, we would go into practice and then he said, hey, let's go upstairs. And we'd go upstairs in the locker room and he broke down 3 hours of Malcolm X's life and how he planned and what transpired. So you can take you can take those learnings and apply them in different aspects. And that's basically what I did. It's just look at some of the teachings, some of the things that were discussed. And I would always tell people, I learned more in one practice than I would in a whole semester of one class. Some of the things that I
Wow.
would take away. And coach was very, very, very articulate about being aware and being present no matter where you are. And so as you're walking across campus, being present as far as your observations of knowing that there's a Euro bench, meaning all the people sitting on that bench were people from Europe. Why is that?
Yeah.
And asking yourself that question, and you come into your own conclusions, but always, allowing your brain to work as to why things are the way that they are.
And he told you guys to make friends with the people. I think you call it up on the hill. Make
Yeah.
friends with, because they may hire you one day, and you may need that, right?
Well, yeah, the way he did that, yes, he definitely told us that. He definitely shared that we need to make friends outside of people that are just our teammates. That you need to make those friends because you never know if you're in a position to whereas you could be hired or you're looking for work. You need to make sure that you're able and prepared to have those types of relationships to where they would give you that opportunity, which also led itself, if you really truly think about it, led itself to, well, if they're going to give you that opportunity, that means you got to do something in school as well. You got to be a decent a decent student. You know,
Yeah.
it manifested its way in so many other aspects that rang true to, you know, him trying to build not just basketball players, but people who had character and people who were good men as well.
So your time ends at the USOC. You come to Turner Sports, and look, there's a lot of stops in your career where you've made some history. I mean, we've talked about the national championship at Georgetown. You played NBA basketball, but one of the big legacies that's going to be a part of your life is you were instrumental in putting together. I'm biased, but what I think is the greatest sports studio show that has ever been inside the NBA. And I'm not talking about just the people in front. I'm talking about people behind the scenes like Lenny Daniels and Tim Kiley. Those people help make this show what it is today. Then, of course, Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley. Just tell me about, look, you've got this basketball experience and you're responsible for watching this product on TV and making sure it's as good as possible. Tell me about how you're planning in your mind to put this thing together and how you helped orchestrate that.
That's another, again, similar to the very first question you asked. That could be an hour to 2 hours long answer. Just getting there. One of the things that I love doing is building things, and so getting there and looking at ABC, looking at CBS, looking at the Olympics, looking at those types of things, and then trying to apply that to what was actually happening at Turner, and getting into something that I didn't know a ton about. Yes, I was on the other side. I was being interviewed, but I wasn't paying close attention to, how that actually worked, how
Sure.
network television, the media, how that actually worked. And being there for a period of time before I was given the opportunity to, hey, we want you, along with, God rest his soul, Mike Pearl, to run Turner Sports. It was awesome. And to take where we were, which was at the very, very bottom, and build it to now where it is even today or before I left, was something that is extremely gratifying. It was awesome. But what I take most pride in is I took very seriously, understanding the editorial content in which people are going to digest each and every day very, very seriously. I did not.
Okay.
I just thought that was so important, and how you can shape and form minds through that. I wanted to make sure what we were presenting to the public was digestible, but mainly that it was true and authentic.
How did that dawn on you, Michael? Because you come from this background of playing basketball. You had some time where you interned in government. How did this TV, this editorial importance dawn on you as you're working at Turner?
Well, you got to think about growing up as an African American male in Washington, D.C., and seeing what was transpiring not only in the city but also in the nation and globally, and knowing that not everything that you see is 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 being presented in a way to where it allowed the viewer to make their own mind. That it was presented in a way that it allowed the viewer to learn while also being entertained, was something that I wanted to bring to the forefront. And because I didn't feel like that was the case for me, whether it was what I was learning at Georgetown or what I was learning at South Lakes in high school. A lot of the books that I learned from had a specific perspective. I didn't learn true Black history while I was at school.
Yep.
If I wanted to learn that, which I did, I made it a point of learning that once I graduated. So how could I take and apply that to what we were going to do on television, while at the same time giving people an opportunity behind the scenes that ordinarily wouldn't get that opportunity? But you also
Sure.
got to, at the same time, make sure that the product that you're putting out there is the best that it could possibly be, and never, never, ever putting yourself in a position where that's not the case. So anyone that you gave an opportunity for had to meet certain criteria that you're trying to put the best product you possibly can on air. Period.
And so you're almost a little bit like a television GM putting together a roster out
Oh,
there.
100%, 100%,
And so
100%.
you think to yourself, okay, I played with Kenny. I like the way that Kenny had some energy when he answered some questions. I like his basketball knowledge. I like the way he breaks down stuff. How is this occurring to you in your mind? Is it almost like a GM's approach?
Oh, yes, it is. It is similar to a GM or a president of a team, but it's also built. Yes, 100%. But it's also building that infrastructure, making sure that you have, from an operational standpoint. I like getting my fingers dirty. I don't mind getting my fingers dirty from an operational standpoint, and making sure that the back of the house. Once you get the back of the house clean, then finding the correct talent, that to me was going to be easy. It was making
Okay.
sure that we had the right people that were able to put the product on air the way that we wanted to present it on air. Um, and one of the first people I reached out to was somebody that you and I are both close with, is Scooter Vertino.
Yep.
And also, I ran a lot of things that I did through him.
Yep.
And he was a little, we call him little, but he was a PA at the time, and he had more assignments that prepared him for what he's doing right now. And a lot of people didn't realize some of the learnings that I took from Coach and at Georgetown, I took to when I was at Turner, and giving people opportunities and asking them to do things, knowing and seeing in the future where their projection and where their projected career would take them. I did that with Lenny quite a bit, making sure that he had certain opportunities and could see his way through certain things so that he was prepared to, once he sat in a particular seat, oh, I've done this before. And
Yep.
to give that person the confidence that they needed in order to be successful.
What's it like for you to sit back on a Thursday night and watch this big, huge show now, all these years later? You do realize what a big deal it is, right?
Um, yes and no. I mean, it's. I love watching Kenny do his thing. I'm enjoying the fact that he's now branched out. Now he has a couple of commercials, because that's something that um, I know he enjoys. But it's ironic because I remember being in Sacramento and I was able to get a commercial for Kenny and get a little bit of money for myself, but I had to have Kenny. So
Yeah.
um, it's just how that's come full circle. To now watch him on doing a Corona, I think it's Corona or something commercial. Now he's doing something with Burger King with Reggie Miller. That's kind of fun to see. But um, it's. I don't look at it that way, to be honest with you. I just look at it, just try and enjoy it. Um, I just remember the bat phone that we used to have when we were on air, and it was a red phone where we would take calls from Adam Silver or David Stern, seeing, watching. I remember just being there every night, every single night. There wasn't a night that I wasn't there the entire night. Um, we had broadcast Tuesday, sometimes Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then sometimes Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, double headers those nights, and just being there the whole time and loving it. Yeah.
I wonder if you get more satisfaction out of the success of this show that's become such an institution, or the success of the people that you entrusted, people like Lenny and Tim Kiley, TK, and Scooter Vertino, and people like that.
No, I get much more. I feel much better about that success than anything.
The behind the scenes people.
The behind the scenes, yeah, that stuff. Yeah, the show has won a ton of Emmys, and deservingly so. And that's mainly because of the people that are there, putting those pieces in place. Lenny, Tim, Scooter. and many more. Tom
Yeah,
Heights is doing a great job. I
sure.
remember walking across the bridge and knowing that he was going to get an opportunity, and he was nervous about it, and it was already a done deal. I'd already, made up my mind that this was going to take place, but he was extremely nervous, and he's their lead producer right now, and it's
Yeah,
just
he
it's just
produces the
fun to
game.
it's just fun to see. It's fun to see.
Yeah, there's so many people that sprang out of that highlight room that I talked to you about that are now in leadership positions down there. Scooter, Deaton Bell, Tom
Hmm.
Heights, Jeremy Levin produces inside the NBA. I mean, all these guys have done all these things. So you go from Turner to Yes, and then again you decide to jump into something new. You go into the shoe game eventually at Nike. What was that challenge like for you? Because it's a totally different business than television, in my mind. Is that fair?
Yeah, no, it is, but building the team is not. So you go in, and I was retired, quite frankly, at the time, and actually working. I owned some coffee shops and was doing that, and um, had an opportunity to work at Nike, and it was fun. Was able to build some things there and build a team, and was responsible for um, the category of basketball for a period of time globally. So that was fun.
I wonder, you were, as a kid, you were part of this cultural thing with the Georgetown Hoyas. I mean, they were the school. Everybody wanted Georgetown gear in the 80s. In any way, did that help you when you get to Nike and you need to sort of market these shoes and market these athletes in a way that puts them out there?
Yeah, it helped in looking back on some of the things that happened. And a lot of people don't realize, um, how popular the school was. We were the number one licensed product of any team, not collegiate team, any team, professional team, for a period of time. And eight, uh, so taking those learnings and the fact that we would try on shoes when I was at Georgetown, and we would literally have to write on a 3x5 card about what we like about the shoe, what we don't like about the shoe, how the fit was, etc. And I remember talking to David Wingate saying, "Man, this is Coach trying to see if we can read and write, and how if we could write a full sentence and things of that nature." But once I went to Georgetown and didn't know this, I saw those same, when we did a history of basketball, I saw some of those same 3x5 cards that he was sending to Nike, to Phil Knight, and they were using those insights to make the product. They were taking those insights, which is kind
Oh,
of
okay.
crazy. And
Yeah.
so listening to the voice of the consumer is one of the things that I took away from. And so I was able to use that, take those learnings, take those experiences, and apply that to what I was doing at Nike.
What were some of the rewards and challenges of working with the big athletes at that time? I remember, you're working with Kobe, you're working with LeBron and stuff like that. Tell me about those experiences and what that was like in trying to put their product out there in the way that it should be put out there.
Yeah, and in a very authentic way. Well, one of the things that I was lucky enough to have played and had some minor success myself. So when you played on a team that was very visible, even though those guys are much younger than me, they had an understanding that they knew that I was a part of the game. So there was some sort of credibility. But if you don't come correct, you know,
That goes out
they're
the
not
door
going to look
quickly.
at you with any type of credibility after the first meeting. But um, it was a lot of fun. And each, one of the things that you quickly learn is that each individual, each star, if you will, is different, and they bring something different to the table. And so learning what that is, what that difference is, and what makes them special is one of the things that I took pride in. And whether it was LeBron, whether it was Kobe, whether it was Kyrie, no matter who it was, and bringing out that little specialness that you can apply to the consumer that's either here in America or the consumer that's in China or the consumer that's in Europe, but mainly the U.S. and China.
So some of that is learning the person and who they are. That's a big part of it, right?
Correct.
To try,
Yes.
to try to
And
understand
bringing that out to make it interesting for the consumer, no matter where they are, no matter who they are.
And tell me about I know that just because of you and I talking at the time through email and stuff, the China market was a huge growth market at that time for you guys, and it was something that you were really focused on growing, right?
Oh yes, and I spent 4 years in Asia, in China, and responsible for the Asian market. It was the best time of my Nike career, to be honest with you. And one of my favorite times was when Kevin Durant came over. We had just started his signature shoe, and I remember sending an overview of we would do these tours in China and sending an overview to the leadership team at Nike and saying, "Hey, this young man is special." And this was before Kevin really showcased his skill set in the NBA. And it was right after his second year in the NBA. I said, this young man is special. Not only is he articulate and able to articulate what he wants and articulate and be able to connect with that consumer in China that doesn't even speak the language, but his skill set was showcased at a level that I hadn't seen before. It was special. Out of all the athletes, that was my biggest takeaway from being when I was in China was the trip when Kevin was there. It was very, very special.
What was it like working with Kobe? Give people an idea of what he was like. My sense from the outside was that he cared a lot about the product and how he was represented out there. I don't know that. What was it like working with him?
Working with Kobe is like working with no one you've never worked with like working with anyone you've ever worked with. He was unique in that his passion for the same passion that he had for the game of basketball, he had for his product and how it was presented to the marketplace. The exact same. And he was sending, he didn't sleep much. So he would send ideas and thoughts to whether it was the designer or whether it was the individual that was marketing the product that was responsible, the head marketer. And he's very special to work with. I thoroughly enjoyed working with him and absolutely loved it. But working with him versus working with LeBron, it's totally different. One of the things that I took away from LeBron was, people talk about his aptitude of being able to remember plays or, him calling out different plays while he's during the game. I learned very quickly that LeBron has a photographic memory, and I learned that by we put some things. We would make sure that the guys were wearing specific products that we were either it was coming to market in the marketplace or that was in the market, so that the consumer can see them wearing it. And so when they went to the store, they would see that, oh, he was just here in our city. He was wearing that. I want to buy that. So we wanted to add something to what we had in LeBron's bag that we had, and we laid out and went over with him everything that he was gonna wear for the 5 days that he was in Asia, and we added one thing to it, and it was one thing in day 3, and he literally came down. We would meet every morning to go over the day's schedule, the day's calendar, and he said, "Who was in my room and messed with my bag?" And it's like, what do you mean? He said, well, what I'm supposed to wear at 2:00, you guys added XYZ. It's like, oh, okay. And that was something that always stuck with me. It's like, oh, okay. This guy has a photographic memory. He can remember what was, and it you foreshadow that to him being able to a reporter asking him a question about a specific play and him going off on just running down verbatim exactly what happened during an end of game play or a play that was in the middle of the third quarter or middle of the second quarter.
As a
Just
player, did
I
that
had
hit
that
you?
experience. Not the same. What's that?
As a player, did that hit you in a different way? Like, how is he remembering that? Or were you able to do that?
No, I'm not able to do that. No, not at all. Not even remotely. No. But uh, no, it didn't hit me as, oh, I can recognize this. No, I have
That's
a
a
good memory,
it's
but
a
nothing
special
like that.
ability, right? It's a special
That's
talent.
special. Exactly. Exactly.
So
No, mine is not. No, not even remotely the same or similar.
so so you were retired before you came to Nike. You're retired again now. Uh, Tell me, I want to know for young people, they're trying to, they're starting their career and they want to get into management or they want to be a leader. What advice do you have for people who want to succeed in those roles?
Well, it's the advice I would have is whatever opportunity you currently have, you got to do it to the best of your ability. And that was one of the things that, again, I took from being at Georgetown. You know, when we stayed in hotels, one of the things a lot of people don't know that when we traveled, we had to wear a collar. We had to have a collared shirt on, whether it was a polo, whether it was a button up, you had to have a collared shirt on. So the way you carried yourself was important. When we flew on the planes, we always had to have an updated resume because you never know when who you're going to sit next to or when that opportunity is going to come when somebody you have a good conversation with the individual and they say, hey, you know what are you doing this summer? We can get you we'd love for you to come and intern. So you say, oh, well, I have my resume with me instead of saying, oh, when I get back to school, I'll be able to send you my resume. So he was always making sure that we were always prepared. But no matter what we were doing, we were always, it was instilled that you do the best that you can. So if you're asked to sweep the floor, you do it to the best of your ability. So no matter what you do, doing it to the best of your ability, and you will take away learnings that you're not even thinking about at the time, so that you're able to apply that when you're the person that's in charge. You know what it took. If you're going to ask somebody to sweep the floor, you know what it takes to sweep the floor. So just making sure that you're learning every step of the way, but you're also learning and doing the best that you possibly can, no matter what opportunity you have. What I see in young people today is them wanting to jump from the entry level position to running things, and it doesn't work out that way. You gotta, when you have that opportunity at the very start, you do it to the best of your ability and stop looking so far ahead in advance that you're not taking advantage of the opportunity that you have right before you. Now, I'm a planner. I've always wanted to be somebody that was in charge, but I also wanted to make sure I understood every step of the way, everybody's responsibility, so that when I asked them to do something, I had a better understanding of what I was asking them to do and knew what outcome was expected. Does
It's
that make
funny because
sense?
no, it does. And when I think about you, one of the things that I always think about is how much darn confidence you must have to go into a leadership role. You were in a real leadership role at a young age, but you were always confident and you always seemed and this planning must be a big part of it because you always seem to know your objective, what that objective was, the path to meet it. And I don't know if the recipe is that's some Coach Thompson, that's some of growing up and your mom's influence, or that's some of just Michael Jackson, that's some of what you learned in the business world. Where did that confidence, to me, and you may not, you're humble, I know this, Michael, but where did that come from?
I've always been confident in knowing what I don't know, and knowing that if I don't know, I have the confidence in myself to be able to one know somebody who knows, hence you or Scooter or Lenny at the time, and having people around me. I was never fearful of having people around me that were smarter than me. That I was very comfortable in that setting. So I always surrounded myself when I was, whether I was in an entry level position or whether I'm running something, to have intelligent people around me. But if I didn't know the answer, I knew I could get the answer. I was very comfortable in knowing that, I will take an opportunity knowing if I don't know it, I'll find somebody who does know it.
It's funny you say that because when I was prepping for this interview, one of the things Scooter said is early on he knew what he didn't know and how to get those answers. And another thing Scooter says now that you said, particularly to me in San Antonio, why would you do that? And now his son Tommy has said to me, why would you do that on a basketball court? So I wonder how far that message is getting spread down, Michael. But that's great to see.
I don't know.
Little Tommy Bertino's now saying, Bo, why would you do that when we're playing horse basketball or whatever? But I really want to thank you, Michael. I know you don't do these things often, so I really, really appreciate it. And the people that listen to our show are people who want to learn and want to succeed in business, and they turn to people like you. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to do this. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks so much to Michael Jackson for coming on the SBC audio experience. And thanks so much to all of you who are listening and giving us feedback. I can't believe all the 5-star reviews. We're really thrilled about that. Remember, wherever you get your podcasts, like, subscribe, give us a review, and always feel free to reach out to me. I'm on Twitter at NBABeau. That's NBABEAU. And you can reach the Sports Business Classroom directly at Sports Biz Class on Twitter. Feel free to reach out to either of us. And thanks so much for listening to the Sports Business Classroom audio experience.